Who? No sooner had Chelsea made the announcement, you can imagine, the theories, analysis, and speculation began flying around. What's the motivation for announcing it now? Maybe because she's pregnant, and that's actually good news. And then how will Hillary choose between being a grandmother or being president? Which, by the way, you can be both. One conservative radio host even suggested that Chelsea had staged her pregnancy in order to help her mother's chances of winning in 2016. Perhaps that theory is meant to distract from a new Fox News poll, which showed that 54% of likely voters believe Secretary Clinton is honest and trustworthy. And if the general election were held today, she'd beat all the top GOP contenders in head-to-head matchups: Chris Christie, Rand Paul, and Jeb Bush. And by the way, no one has actually questioned what the impact of Jeb's second grandchild means for his candidacy. All right, so is it Vice President Joe Biden, Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, or Maryland Governor Martin O'Malley? As you see here, the Vice President is the only one of them not polling in the single digits. So you got to ask, if not Hillary, then who?
If I decide to run, believe me, this will be the first guy I talk to. But that decision hadn't been made, for real.
I've been preparing in terms of the thought work, the policy work, and the groundwork necessary to offer a better direction forward for our country.
So is the presidency off the table here, Governor? A long time people thought you were going to run for president. Is your friend Hillary Clinton in that seat now, or what? Is the presidency off the table then?
I'm sorry, I'm losing you. We have a technical difficulty. I'm running for governor of the state of New York.
I am not running for president, and I plan to serve out my term.
Now, I just want to say, personally, having known Chelsea as a teenager in the White House, I'm just happy for her and Mark. Our panel is back, and you know what? That actually didn't belong there. Dana, Jamel, Zerlina, and McKay. All right, let's talk about this. McKay, is Hillary going to run now that she's going to be a grandmother?
Can Hillary Clinton have it all, I think is what you're asking.
That's right. Oh, God. Exactly.
I mean, that's just, it's a preposterous question. Of course, she can be a grandmother and a presidential candidate and a president. We have had grandparents in the White House before.
How about that?
I assume we will again. I think
so you're saying you think people can balance both rules?
Yeah, and I do. I think she can. I don't know what the time-intensive grandmothering people are expecting of her. But I do think, actually, I mean, if anything, truthfully, I don't think this will have any influence on whether she runs or her campaign. If anything, I think it helps to have a cute little kid around. So, you know, I think that'll be a plus.
Well, it's interesting that you should mention that because, Jamel, some are suggesting, right, that this will be a fabulous prop for the campaign to have a newborn baby, right? That's how ridiculous the speculation has gotten.
I mean, again, like McKay said, it's good to have a kid around. I mean, I'm sure there will be great photo ops with, if Hillary Clinton runs, with her like kissing a baby and, you know, like going to daycare, I guess. I don't know. I don't have kids. I don't know how it works.
You have your kid.
It's so much more hygienic. She can just kiss her own grandchild rather than picking up strange babies and kissing them. It's just perfectly planned all around.
Yeah, well, you know those Clintons. They are smart. All right, let's talk about Joe Biden. Joe the Biden, as we like to call him. So he is the only contender with foreign policy experience. He's been an advocate for the middle class, women, minorities, gay rights. Like, those are his positives. The negatives, some gaffes, some comments here and there. And he also doesn't, Zerlina, project this kind of, this is fresh, this is new, this is different.
I mean, he's a white guy. We have to be talking about the fact that the entire list we're talking about, save Elizabeth Warren, is white men. And so the country, I think, is pivoting in a moment where Hillary Clinton really, it makes history if she wins. It would create excitement in the feminist space for sure. And I think the women that were activated and excited about her candidacy the 2 cycles ago would again be excited if she were to run in 2016. And this is pure sexism when they're talking about whether or not her being a grandmother will matter or whether it's staged. That's sexism 101. Like, it's not even a debate.
All right, so Jamel, let's move on to Martin O'Malley. He has beefed up his resume over the last few years, describing himself as a pro-growth progressive. He has a pretty good record in terms of progressive wage and so forth in Maryland. He doesn't have the kind of name recognition. Nope. And actually, I think we can show you in a poll in the state of Maryland, he is not doing so well in a matchup against Hillary Clinton. She actually outpolls him by pretty dramatic numbers. I think we have that. Do we not have that? There you go. 72%. These are Maryland residents. And let's see, O'Malley, 6.
I think if O'Malley were to rename himself Tommy Carcetti, he might do a bit better in these polls. Little Y reference there. You know, I think O'Malley, I think there's a space for Martin O'Malley, right? Especially if Elizabeth Warren does not run, then there needs to be someone to the left of Clinton. And there's going to be a lot of progressives hoping for someone running to the left of Clinton. Clinton is definitely a party unifying figure, but among the group of Democrats who have come to really embrace income inequality as a cause, who have are really trying to push for, you know, more genuinely progressive policy, is the kind of people who wanted a public option. They're going to want someone to at least be able to go in the field and say, listen, you know, even while we support Hillary, we got to keep our eye on the ball for these progressive causes.
You know, the thing that strikes me too, when you look at O'Malley, sort of, Dana, staking out kind of a more progressive kind of tone, it's Governor Cuomo who's kind of backed off on some, you know, he's upset progressives. You know, the minimum wage, there was one increase, but he's made it so we can't, New York City can't make another increase. He's done some things on campaign finance that people were disappointed about. So he's the one who kind of, at one point, I think people thought he might be, you know, kind of the other progressive option, but I think he's gotten himself in trouble.
Well, or maybe he didn't intend to be in that presidential role in the first place. I think Cuomo's are just destined to disappoint Democrats all through. We've waited for his father for decades, and now we'll wait for him, or, you know, it's not going to happen.
Or not wait.
Or not, yeah, and it'll just move along. Somebody asked recently whether Mario Cuomo might still be interested in running for president. But the whole here is we're really just talking about, you know, who is ready to step in if Hillary Clinton is not running. That's really all we're talking about. Yeah. There's nobody who's a serious contender here. Just the notion of Martin O'Malley lighting a spark on the left against, you know, this milquetoast governor of Maryland really firing up the country.
Jeb Bush, right.
You know, maybe Elizabeth Warren is the one person who could really fire up the left, even with a Hillary in the race. But really, it just seems like they're picking over crumbs now.
Well, yes, they are. That's why we're having this conversation. So, McKay, let's pick up on that point, because Elizabeth Warren, that's kind of, I feel like, the dark horse, right? She, even though she said she's not running, let's see, she has a book coming out. She's going to do a book tour that just happens to go to some big cities that just happen to have big donors, you know, they're not early states, but they have big donors, and it doesn't hurt to get her brand out there and for her to meet more people.
That book also is like the quintessential I'm running for president book, you know? It's like her smiling on the cover looking kind of tough, and then it's like, you know, I think that she has been the most absolute about saying that she's not running, that she's going to serve out her term. I mean, when push comes to shove, if people see an opening and they think that there's a possibility that they could become president of the United States, 9 times out of 10 they take it, right? That said, I mean, it would actually be an Obama-like feat for her to really take on Clinton, the Democratic machine that's already kind of behind her, and to really stage kind of that kind of insurgent campaign. I wouldn't bet money on it, but certainly it would be fun to watch.
Now, let's ask this question, though. So what if Hillary doesn't run, and you do have an Elizabeth Warren, Dana, would the Hillary machine, because you've got kind of this infrastructure in waiting, would they get behind whoever it is, if it's not Hillary?
Well, I think they'd split up. There's no obvious likely person to fill that role. I mean, admittedly, I was at this same point. 2006, saying there's nobody possible who could take on Hillary Clinton. So, you know, take this with a grain of salt. But I think we're even beyond that now, and the only thing that can stop her is her own decision not to. And if it doesn't, yeah, no, her machine and operatives will parcel themselves out among the various, you know, Joe Biden, Martin O'Malley. That'll really, oh boy, I think I'll take a long vacation.
Absolutely. Aww. Zerlina, you want to weigh in?
Well, I really think that Elizabeth Warren could, you know, come in and be exciting. I think that she has that style that we liked in Obama, those progressive principles that excites the base, saving Social Security being a big issue that she is out in front on. But she really doesn't have the infrastructure, like we've been saying. So I don't, and she said she's not going to run. So those two things make me think that Hillary Clinton
let's just be perfectly honest. It doesn't matter if a politician says they're not going to run. There's always a way out of you know, I've been drafted, the people want me. I mean, you know, there's plenty of ones out of that one. Exactly. Well, there you go. You can plenty of them.
The real question is she a grandmother? Have we determined that? Because then she's out.
True. Yeah. I believe she's a mother. We have not confirmed.
She's also Native American. I just want to establish that people from Oklahoma generally have Native American blood. That's not controversial.
And you can read about it in her book, apparently. Yes, all right. Dana, Jamal, and Zerlina will be back with me. I want to thank McKay Coppins for your time today. And still ahead, cattle and